Greetings, everyone. You are tuned into the Trust and Believe Nomad Cast. I'm your humble host, Damon Anderson. Please continue to like, subscribe, click the bell icon so you can get notifications whenever I post a Trust and Believe Nomad Cast episode on my YouTube channel, which is what? Retired Master Sergeant 20. So thank you guys for tuning in, whether it's via video or audio. Appreciate that. Today is 19 October 2021. Hope everybody had a great Monday. All peace, all love, and again, appreciate everything that you guys are doing. My numbers are increasing for subscribers. The numbers are increasing for the downloads via the Apples and the Google podcast and the Spotify's and all the et cetera. So appreciate all that. Tuesday morning opening remarks. I'm gonna dig into something that I think is critical for us adults that have children or soon to be having children. Now, my daughter, she's growing of age where she can make decisions on her own. I won't say as executive decisions, but she can make decisions on her own in terms of, how she wants her life and, day-to-day business and whatnot. So I find myself sometimes, and it's something I really have to get better at. I find myself kind of, I don't want to say questioning some of the decision making. I mean, because, as a leader in the military, we kind of do that as well, kind of question the decision making. I mean, I've had sergeant majors and colonels and whoever questioning my decision making. So it's, I think that's just the way it is sometimes in the hierarchy of people or leadership or whatever. So I notice I got to find myself sometimes not expecting. I think we all have to look at this, not expecting the you in somebody. Let me say that again. We cannot expect the you in somebody. Like me and my wife can't expect our daughter to conduct her business and to have her thoughts the same way we would do ours. We was in a different time, a different era. Quick to say, oh, well, back in my day, when I was freaking this age, I did it this way and this is how it was. And it's like, no, you didn't. You was not actively doing anything that was close to being constructive. I mean, I take myself for example. Before I got married, when I was a single Marine, trust and believe, no pun intended. Whenever I got paid by the U.S. Marine Corps, the Department of Defense, the government, however you want to classify it, when I was a young Marine, 18 years old, whenever I got paid every 2 weeks, trust and believe, as soon as that money hit my direct deposit, it was gone. Chains, food, clothes, shoes, rinse and repeat. Same thing over and over. So then I look at myself, whenever my daughter does anything, I always say, why don't you do it this way? Why don't you do it this way? Well, back in my day, I would have did that. I suffer, and sure, a lot of you probably can agree, as parents, we suffer with revisionist history. Oh, well, when I did it, it wasn't that way. Dude, I am so thankful that our daughter does not conduct her business the way I conducted my business when I was her age. Because I was a Marine, I served the few and the proud, but God dog it, I was not smart with money. I was constantly broke. I was fresh though. I was fly, but I was broke. I used to have all these shoes. Some of them still got all these clothes, all this. But if you came to my barracks room, there was no food in the refrigerator. And then as I grew as a leader and started attaining more responsibility, earning more responsibility, when I used to conduct room inspections in my soldiers' rooms, I used to do the same thing. I'm like, okay, you got this nice car sitting out in the parking lot. Why are you eating freaking ham sandwiches all the freaking time? Why don't you go to the commissary, go to the grocery store, do this and that? Oh, well, this and that, this is the reason why. And I'm like, oh, well, back in my day when I was a young troop, sometimes I have to, really just kind of peel back and, I suffer from revisionist history, and I also suffer from expecting the me in people. expecting the you in people. It just doesn't work. So I'm at the point now, I'm going to let my daughter, adult, figure things out. And when she runs into a problem, we'll be there to assist. I think another problem that I have, and this probably, everybody, right? I know another problem I have when people, like if my wife, my daughter, my son are talking to me, I'm listening, but I'm listening to solve the problem. I hear the problem. I identify the problem. I'm crafting and shaping solutions to ensure this problem never rears its head again. And I should just say, listen, if they say, hey, Dad, I like lemons. Well, it's a reason why you don't like lemons. Just slow down. They don't like lemons. Just using that as an example. I have to learn how to listen. Active listening. I'm MRT certified, right? So I should be able to understand active listening. My problem is, again, I listen to solve the problem, identify a problem. This is the problem set. Let me develop solutions, craft and shape those solutions to find a better way. And sometimes it's just like, hey, just listen. This is what I'm going through, or this is the problem I have. Sometimes they don't want you to solve it. Sometimes just listen. So I got to get better at that. I blame the military. All right, y'all. Appreciate everything again. Again, these are the open remarks on this wonderful 19 October 2021. We're going to go into talking on a Tuesday, and I'm going to talk about living overseas, something that's near and dear to my heart. Oh, gosh. Love overseas life. So I'm going to talk about living overseas, some of the places that we lived, and some of the reasons why we definitely want and we will end up moving this Anderson train overseas. So stay tuned for that. Appreciate it. We'll be back. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Trust and Believe Nomad Cast. Again, I'm your host, Damon Anderson. Please continue to like, subscribe to my YouTube channel at Retired Master Sergeant 20. Appreciate everything as I adjust my mic here. Yeah, mic adjustment. Again, appreciate everything. Glad you guys are around and listening, whether you're listening with the audio or watching with the video. Again, like, subscribe, click the bell icon, and do all the etceteras. All right, so talking on a Tuesday today, we're talking about living overseas. And just a little backstory, I was a child that loved to imagine. I used to imagine about things that I didn't believe I could attain. I used to have a unique imagination. I think I still do as an adult, right? I think we all, love to imagine, and how would it be? What is it like here? Oh, wow, look at that, man. That's awesome. We all have a sense of child in us, and I think we continue to sustain those childlike imaginations. So when I was a child, I used to watch a lot of the news. I won't say I was a news head, but I watched a lot of news, and I used to watch, a lot of these overseas issues that was happening back in the day. And I used to always wonder, how did they get American cars overseas? Why is this Chevy van in Iran? How did that happen? Why is this Chrysler over there in Paris? How is this happening? And as I got older, I realized, import, export goods and all that sorts of thing. But I will tell you, I'm saying all that to say, I always imagine what would life be like overseas. I used to get fascinated when I found out that A-list actors, musicians, or whoever lived overseas. I was always fascinated by that. Like, man, they just kind of just uprooted their whole life and lived overseas. Again, this was before I even joined the military, where my whole thing about overseas, going to another country, was going across the daggone Detroit River, or going up under the Detroit River to Canada, So I didn't experience the overseas thing until, I raised my right hand and joined the Marines and subsequent Army. But I would tell you again, I think about that sometimes as a child. I used to always wonder. I used to read the history books and the geography books and social studies, and they always talked about, overseas and trading overseas and exports and imports and Panama and Japan and all these places. And I used to look at the pictures and the people and the history and all that, whether it was bad or good. I used to always marvel and always wonder, man, what is it like living overseas? I mean, do you still have the same services? Is McDonald's still there? Or how does the water taste? And what is the transportation like? Do you drive on the other side of the road? What is it like? And, I'm thankful that I had the opportunity, not myself, but my wife and children, to experience some of that overseas life. And it's kind of one of them things where vacationing overseas is different versus living. I mean, of course, right? But it's just something about when you're in a foreign country for X amount of years, 2 years, 3 years, 3.5 years, however long a person, is. It's just something about that overseas culture. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to run down all of our overseas assignments. I'm going to talk about our first overseas assignment and our last overseas assignment. And I will include the deployments in that as well, because that's really a different conversation, because I was there under different conditions, so. But what I like to do, I'll start with Germany. Okay, so if you remember the stories when I initially started this podcast, I broke down the years when we were in foreign countries, which is considered OCONUS, outside of the continental United States, and also CONUS, which is the continental United States, which is within the 50. All right. Now, Hawaii and Alaska is considered OCONUS. All right. So, and I will find that all my most vivid memories, the memories where it puts a smile on my face, I would say 90% of those memories are the ones I had overseas. Now, I've had more overseas assignments than I've had assignments in the United States, in the continental United States. And a lot of that's by choice, by design, by luck, by favor, what have you. I never want to be that person that was just stuck. A few weeks ago, I talked about being stationary. I never want to be stuck in one place, right? Because you get stagnant, right? So I would tell you a quick story, then I go into my assignments. So I remember when I was a recruiter in Detroit, and I remember I had a future soldier. I took this future soldier to White Castle one day. Because as a recruiter, sometimes you got to professionally massage the situations. And, hey, little Jerry, you want some White Castle? What you think about the Army as we sitting here eating these free fries that I bought you, right? Just the way it was, man. So I remember we were in line, and a lady was like, are you here? A lady behind us was like, are you here recruiting? I said, yes, ma'am. I'm a recruiter here, and I have my future soldier here. And so she was like, is he getting deployed? Is he going to war? It's like the first thing people think when the military, and I got it. That's the ultimate thing we do. You go defend the Constitution and everything. But it's always, are they going to war? Are they going to war? I'm like, slow down, lady. This dude ain't even took the daggone ASVAB test yet. So I was like, no, I don't have no control over what's going to happen once he leaves my recruiting station. But right now we're prepping him for success. And she was like, well, where is he going to get stationed at? And I was like, well, hopefully somewhere outside the United States. She kind of just leaned back. She said, why you say that? I said, if this young man has an opportunity to go to an Italy, to a Germany, to a Japan, a Korea, some of these other places, I'm like, man, that's a win for this guy. And she was like, I don't know why y'all want to have, try to, recruit somebody and trick them to want to live outside of America. I'm like, she's like, it's a war going on. I'm like, lady, I'm a former resident of Detroit. Look around. You in war every day, not just here, everywhere. I mean, you war in everywhere you go. A lot of it's mental, a lot of it's physical. But I'm like, I don't know how you can say that. And I didn't really spend too much time talking to her, because a lot of times you can just, there's no need to keep digging in there, right? But I'm like, for opportunity for someone to live overseas, oh my God, that's freaking monumental. Again, I'm speaking all this from my lens, from where I sat, what I thought. Some people's like, hey, I'm glad to be in Cootersville, wherever you live at. Thumbs up to you. Thumbs up to you. So I'm going to talk about Germany, our first duty station. We were there. Well, I was there from 1999 to 2002, and my wife and daughter arrived 2000. Because if you remember in our early episodes of the Nomad Cast, my wife was still in the Marine Corps, so she had to fulfill her contract. I got there in November of 99, and my wife and daughter arrived April of 2000. So that's why I say I was there from 1999 to 02. They were there from 2000 to 02. So I remember when I landed in Detroit, it was November 4th, and it was daggone cold outside. We landed at Rhein-Main Airport, which it used to be an Air Force base, but now they closed it years ago. Rhein-Main Air Base in Germany. And it was near Frankfurt. And I remember landing there, and there was snow on the ground. It was really cold. And I just couldn't fathom the fact that this dude from Detroit is in Germany. Because I remember when I was in the Marine Corps, one of the reasons why I decided to get out the Marine Corps, I was honorably discharged. One of the reasons why, because the career counselor told me that if you reenlist, you will go to Japan. No ifs, ands, and buts about it. I told him, I said, Gunny, I am not going to Japan. He said, oh, you will go to Japan. And it's amazing. I got out the Marines primarily to try to avoid Japan because I had just got married and everything. And it's funny how everything works out sometimes. I end up going to Japan years later after that and freaking loved it. So I'm going to talk about the whole Japan thing. But I remember landing in Germany on November 4th, 1999, and it was mind-boggling to be out. I was like, man, it snows over here. And I remember when I got my barracks room, it had a TV and everything. I'm watching AFN. This is the first time I ever seen AFN, which is the Armed Forces Network. It's like your own military network that don't show commercials. And you can get other stations too, but AFN is like that primary station. And I remember watching movies on AFN and sports shows and wondering why, oh, shoot, man, the game come on at freaking 2:30 in the morning and people in the States, you know, are going to sleep or whatever. I mean, it was, wow, it was such an experience I can't even imagine. And then when my family arrived there, they was like, man, Germany is great. But I think my wife was like, okay, Germany's cool. I'm bored. And this is before, develop friendships and she, start working over there and everything. But I think initially, I don't even think she really liked it because Germany is kind of one of the places where it's almost like Seattle of Europe in terms of it's always cloudy. It wasn't a lot of sun out and it was cold. A lot of people will look at that as being miserable. I think if you take the consensus of all overseas places, people will look at Europe as being miserable as it relates to weather and all that. It's not sunny as Spain. It's not hot as the Philippines, so on and so forth. But I remember we used to go like to the market, the Marktplatz, and eating pommes frites and, schnitzel and eating brötchen and all these different things. And it was just like, man, we're in freaking Germany. Oh, by the way, if I take the Autobahn 66, I can go to freaking Paris. Oh, I can look over there. There's freaking Austria. God dog it. My wife going to freaking Czechoslovakia. I mean, it was just mind boggling just to be able to be at the center of all those European countries, those same countries I looked at in the textbooks, the same countries I read history on, right? Just it was a beautiful time for those 3 years we were in Germany. And I was like, man, we live in Germany. And not one time did I go back to the States on leave. Whenever I took leave, I stayed in country. So a lot of people, they'll take leave and they'll go back and visit their mother or they'll take a vacation somewhere else. I didn't. Whenever I took leave, always stayed in Germany because it was always some place to go. And then not only you can see all the historical things about Germany, because there's a lot of history there. You can also go to the other bases in Germany, and you may have friends stationed in Mannheim, or you may have friends stationed in K-Town, which is Kaiserslautern. You can, at that time, Würzburg was open. You can go to Würzburg, all these places. And a lot of those installations are closed now compared to what it was when we were there. And then even before we were there, it was a whole bunch of bases in Germany. I mean, because, you had the whole Cold War going on and the Soviet Union and all that. My only regret that I have in Germany, I don't want to say regrets. I have two places I wish I had visited before we left. The one was the Berlin Wall. Well, pieces of the Berlin Wall. I wish I had some of that wall. And also to see Checkpoint Charlie, which is in Berlin. Because Checkpoint Charlie, the Soviets was on one side, the American soldiers were on the other side, separated by the Berlin Wall. I wish I had a piece of that Berlin Wall that came down in 1989. And I wish I had went through Checkpoint Charlie to physically see it, take a picture near it. And also, I would have liked to go into the concentration camps where they had, the Holocaust and everything. Because I know a lot of people, when we were stationed there, they would go visit it. And they would talk about you could still smell some of the death and everything. And just kind of I'm not saying I wanted to walk through it and not really take pictures. Just kind of just to be there, and kind of that moment of time, was so tragic. And I'm not trying to celebrate it, but just to kind of just be there, it's kind of one of those phases in history that's painful. But when you see it, it's like just, man, it's words are escaping me when it comes to that. So those two things I wish I had seen. I wish I had traveled more. I wish I'd have went to the Italys and some of these other places. My mindset back then, it was all about work, go home, work, go home. And I was in one of them units that did that. And I thought that I wouldn't be an effective leader if I'm always gone. Years later, I kind of changed that whole mindset. But those are some of the regrets I have. I wish I had done more. My wife traveled actually more than I did. So I wish I had really learned and explored Germany instead of just saying, hey, I live in Germany. Okay, that's great. What did you go see? Well, I saw the PX. Okay, dude, it's more to it than that. All right, so my second place I've been right after Germany, I deployed from Fort Hood, Texas, because when we left Germany, we went to Fort Hood, Texas. I was deployed to Iraq from 2004 to 2005. So I'm not going to dig too much on that. It's just living in Iraq. It was hot. Some days were hotter than others, and I ain't talking about the weather. So just know Iraq was a different situation, right? Those was adverse conditions. So let's transition from Iraq was the second time I've lived overseas. And the next one will be Kuwait from 2009 to 2010. Now, Kuwait was a different beast. We didn't have some of the issues that we had when I was in Iraq. Nonetheless, the threat was still there. But it was more of, I don't want to call it a vacation, but it was a very calming time. Kuwait was hot, brutally hot. I remember days it would get to like 114, 115, even hotter than that. We used to have these sandstorms, these dust storms you couldn't even see in front of you. Kuwait was different. I did a couple of tours in Kuwait City. Going out there, seeing all these sheiks and all these rich people driving these Lamborghinis and all these expensive cars. And it's a mall in Kuwait City sitting on the water. You enter the mall, via a boat and everything. You're looking at the Persian Gulf. The water is freaking blue. It was amazing. Kuwait was great. And one thing that people don't realize, a lot of people, whether civilians, you can go live and work overseas and teach on military bases. A lot of folks retire and they stay overseas or they move overseas. So Kuwait was definitely one of those places. I don't know if I would want to live there again long term. I don't know if I would want to live long term in Germany again. I mean, we lived there for 3 years. I would like to go back. Me and my wife always talking about going back, just kind of seeing where we were stationed at. Because that area where we were stationed at in Hanau is closed. Of course, the community is still there, but the bases that was around Hanau, talking about Underwood Concern, talking about Hoottier, talking about Gross Otterheim, talking about Pioneer Concern, New Argoner, Old Argoner. Those places are closed, and I think a lot of them have been redeveloped, repurposed when they signed everything over back to the Germans. But there was a lot of good food there, a lot of good food, a lot of good people. But yeah, getting back to Kuwait, Kuwait was good. I enjoyed my time in Kuwait. Now let's see. The next place I went to after Kuwait was Japan, if I'm correct. Yeah, it was Japan. No, I'm sorry. Let me take all that back. I am missing the first time I was in Korea. I was in Korea from 2007 to 2008. And Korea, the first time I was there, I was a staff sergeant when I was there. And Korea, at that time, when I was a staff sergeant, my family wasn't there, so I was there by myself. Now you can take your families there, especially where I was at Camp Humphreys. When I was there, I stayed in the barracks, and I had a nice barracks room. My family was at Fort Lewis, Washington, while I was in Korea. And Korea was fun. I mean, you know, I didn't have a car because they didn't let freaking anybody under E7 have a vehicle back then. So everywhere I was going, I was walking, catching the cab, you know, waving out Odyssey to get in the cab, or caught the train. And that train, you go from Camp Humphreys to Seoul just like that. I did a lot of shopping in Seoul, Korea. Seoul, Korea is nice. The Korean culture, it was great. I love Korea. Korea was great. Food was good. I had a good time in Korea. That was my first time in Korea. So I was there for a year, and again, I was without my family. So it was good. It was a good tour. Then a couple years after that was the whole Kuwait. So after Kuwait, we went to Fort Lewis, went on recruiting, left recruiting in Detroit, went to Okinawa, Japan. Now, the creme de la creme of all my overseas assignments is Okinawa, freaking Japan. The very place I tried to avoid when I was in the Marine Corps. Let me tell you, we were in Okinawa, Japan from February 2014 to July 2017. And I would tell you, I, along with my wife, will go down and say that has been the best assignment. Let me say that again. Okinawa, Japan, from the time that we were there, the best assignment we've ever had. That assignment, the best family assignment, one of my best work professional assignments I ever had. That assignment was great. Oh my God. Landing in Okinawa, Japan in February of 2014. It was phenomenal. I remember it was kind of hot outside that day, and we got briefed on typhoon season, which was a monster. Got briefed on driving on the other side of the road, which took something to get used to. Paying road tax every year. I mean, but the thing about Okinawa, it was so family friendly. Even like the single Marines and single, because you had all the branches were there, and we were all kind of co-located together. The way the Okinawans treated you, oh God, it was phenomenal. I mean, it was like they just they was on your beck and call. They was very respectful. I was very respectful of them. We appreciated their culture. We know what everything that happened back in the day. And one thing, if you tried to learn the language, or you had your little book trying to talk, speak a little Japanese, oh man, you endeared yourself to that community, to their families, man. It was such a blessing to be there. You talk about food. I used to hear jokes, oh, you guys are getting stationed in Japan. Where y'all going to live in huts? That's such an ignorant thing to say. Man, look, Japan had some of the best housing ever seen in my life. I've never seen a warm-up toilet until we got to Japan. Keyless entry, all this stuff that's just coming to America now, it was in Japan. Even Korea kind of shares some of those technologies as well. But Japan, oh my gosh, me and my wife, we talk about Japan all the time. And fun fact, that is the place I believe that we're going to end up planting our flag and retiring, officially just giving up on America and going to Japan. Because it's just something about living overseas. You know, we can get a job on base. We could do all that, but man, it was such a blessing to be stationed in Japan. Beautiful time, man. My wife loved it. My children loved it. Met some beautiful people there, man. It was such a wonderful assignment, man. And I know America has its issues. Japan has issues. Everyone has their issues. But I think for that moment of time, it was phenomenal. Now we run the risk of, okay, all the fun and excitement that we had when we were there in 2014 to 2017, if we went over there, are we going to duplicate that fun? Again, that was a different time. It was different people, different circumstance. Now going over there as civilians, living as Japanese citizens, what is it going to be like, you know? But again, that's a challenge, you know. But definitely Japan is definitely number one on it to become the country we will go to so we can be expats, right? Now, after we left Japan, we get rotated back to the States, to our local area, and went and settled the family, got a house and everything, and then I was on orders to go to Korea. Now, I would tell you, the first time I was in Korea from 2007, 2008 was not that same Korea I was in from 2017 to 2018. That was my last overseas assignment that year in Korea. To me, it was the best professional assignment I ever been, because everything I learned prior to Korea, some of the things I've learned when I was in Japan, Korea to me was the culminating event. Korea, where I went to in Camp Casey, was a dependent restrictive tour. So I couldn't have my family there. And some of the senior officers and senior NCOs, your sergeant majors or whatnot, a lot of them, if they were married, their family would be in Seoul, because there was no more family in Casey. They moved all the families out. And then we was at 11 to 12 miles from the DMZ. So that was another story. But I enjoyed that year of Korea. I mean, again, the food, you know, the way the people treated you, shopping in the Ville, going out to some of these stores and everything. That year went by so fast. It was phenomenal. So, you know, when I look back at all our overseas assignments, talking about Germany and Iraq and Korea the first time, and then Kuwait, then we talk about Japan, and then Korea again. I can't leave out the missions and the exercises I had to go on in Australia, which was, I was at Rockhampton, Australia. That was phenomenal. Going to the Philippines. I went to the Philippines in March of, I want to say 2016, was there for like 40, 50 days. I ain't never been as hot. I thought Iraq was hot. I thought Kuwait was hot. There was no hot compared to freaking Korea from that, like that March, April, May time frame. It's like a freaking furnace. I can't leave out Thailand and some of these other countries that we went to go see and visit and live. Overseas life, again, I will say this, man, until I'm no longer on this earth. To me, overseas life is so much better than living in the States. But it's also dependent on what you want. The stress levels that we have in the States, I don't remember having those overseas. I mean, it's different stressors living overseas. Don't get me wrong. It ain't like every day is sunny, but it's just a different level of stress. Some of the things I worry about now as a man, you know, with children and wife and everything, a lot of those issues that I worry about now living in America, I didn't even fathom living overseas. Again, every area is a problem set. I'm not trying to blame America, not trying to uplift other places, but I think just for us, our family, overseas is the way to go. So I'm definitely looking forward to within the next 5 or 6 years of us becoming expats. Definitely looking forward to that. And that's something definitely I want to engage in. But I just want to use this day to talk about, you know, living overseas. And I know I've touched on some of these places before in previous Nomad casts, but it's just something about that overseas life. I really enjoy it. Phenomenal. And I can't wait till we become official expats. I'm still friends with some of my old unit pages, and even friends on Facebook that we've been stationed all over the world. And some of them are getting stationed in some of those places again, those overseas assignments. And I look on their page like, man, why you get to go back to Japan? Man, why are you in Germany now? You know what I mean? But it's cool, man. We'll do what we have to do to make sure everything is good to go. But I will say within the next 5 or 6 years, I am definitely looking at us becoming official expats and moving overseas, with Japan being the #1 option. So definitely looking for that. So again, appreciate everything, y'all. Again, thank you for listening to me. Definitely thank you for watching and listening to me, whether you're sitting at work watching me on YouTube or listening to me via the audio, the podcast platforms, i.e. Apple Podcast and Google and Spotify and Spreaker and Deezer, Podcast Chaser, Podcast Addict, GeoSavin, to name a few. So appreciate everything that you guys are doing. Keep those likes up, keep those subscriptions, keep going, keeping my downloads up. And again, this is therapy for me. Appreciate it. Today was Talking on a Tuesday on 19 October 2021. Tomorrow is Way Back Wednesday. Now, if you remember last week's Way Back Wednesday, I had some technical difficulties with probably operator level. I was going to talk about how I met my wife. So tomorrow I'm going to tell that story, talk about how we met in the Marine Corps until where we at right now. So that should be a fun topic as well. Again, appreciate it. Today was Talking on a Tuesday, talking about living overseas and just kind of just going back in time and recollecting some of the things I probably forgot, which is okay. But if you ever have the opportunity to vacation, I know a lot of you have, being stationed over there, living over there. Again, it ain't just, for military. It's civilians can live overseas no matter the age, working on base or doing whatever. Take that time and do a little research, man. You'll be surprised how many Americans live overseas. The Mexicos, the Germanys, the Irelands, the Africas, Philippines, all over the place. You will be surprised at married people, young single women, young men, all walks of life, black, white, no matter whoever, man. Go where you want to go where you want to live, enjoy that. Open up your curtains and being able to see a beach every day. I mean, that's freaking phenomenal, man. Would you rather, wake up and you see the freeway or see the back of someone's building, or you open up your curtains, you see a freaking beach, or you see people skiing? Let's not limit ourselves, man. This world is too big to be happy where you're at. You know what I mean? This world is too big to be happy where you at. So appreciate everything. Again, like, subscribe, and follow to my YouTube channel at Retired Master Sergeant 20. You can follow me as well, the Trust and Bleed Nomad Cast. I'm on Apple, I'm on Google, I'm on Spotify, I'm on Deezer, Podcast Chaser, Podcast Addict, GeoSavin. Now, I talked about yesterday as I get ready to close this out. Yesterday, I talked about I'm going to have to come with a phrase every day. So today's phrase, I'm going to talk about something that we should all know about: expectations. And you're going to enjoy this and take it with you. Stick it in your brain housing group and really just think about what I'm getting ready to say. High expectation, low reality will always equal disappointment. High expectation, low reality will always equal disappointment. Always, always. Appreciate everything. Be safe, be sound. See y'all tomorrow on Way Back Wednesday. One love.